We started the season on the West Coast, and appropriately, we're ending it there as well. With this being a club based in the California area, it makes sense to try to start and stop things on home soil. But the last time we were here, it proved a tricky one for the competitors. Let's see who learned a thing or two in the interim as we get ready to watch round 13 of the Porsche Owners Club Series. And you'll see it all live here on the Global SimRacing Channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is Roush Racing driver Joey Atterbury. Behind the scenes is our director, Christian Deploy, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Many of our drivers have driven at the real Willow Springs, but if you haven't heard of this place, why don't we introduce you with our track guide?
Welcome to Willow Springs International Raceway. As the oldest permanent road course in the U.S., it holds a particular place of distinction among American motorsports fans. The circuit is just an hour and a half north of Los Angeles, and because of this, it has been used in various films and TV shows over the years. With only 9 turns over 2.5 miles, or just over 4 kilometers, you'd think it's a pretty simple affair. But the incredible camber, numerous elevation changes, and some diabolically fast corners means there's complexities here to keep drivers busy for years. The downside is that there are a few heavy braking zones throughout the lap, and most are not in a straight line. Rabbits Ear and Turn 9 each require the driver to carry tremendous speed and aim for frighteningly late apexes. Meanwhile, the run past the Budweiser balcony all the way through the Monroe Ridge takes you on a roller coaster of rises and drops, all while dipping left and right with wild changes in banking. Sadly, there are a few series that visit the track in present day, but it stays extremely active through club racing, driver coaching, and private test days. It has long been a favorite for both fans and drivers, and once you get onto the track, it'll be easy to see why.
Well, Joey, this is a place that a lot of fans seem to be very fond of, but I know it's not your most favorite, but still, I think it puts on some good racing.
It can put on some good racing. Located in Southern California, Rosamond, California, to be exact. Not a whole lot going on in that town except for this racetrack, and it is a fast one. Turn number 1, the front straightaway doesn't look very long, but because of how fast that turn 9 corner is, it's probably your best passing opportunity going into turn 1 there. And then from turn number 2 at the base of that, it's all the way uphill towards the Budweiser balcony up there at turn number 4. People can get a little sneaky there in that, call it sector 2, that 3, 4, 5 section if somebody gets pushed off a line, but once you hit that Monroe Ridge at turn number 6, it's downhill, flat out. You do have to lift a little bit there in turn number 9 as it kind of tightens towards the end of the corner, but this place is extremely fast, and it's very, very slippery. It's located in the high desert.
Yeah, that's a good point. All that dust coming across the track can certainly compromise drivers if they're not paying attention. But we'll pay attention to them in a moment. First, though, we want to mention our sponsors, which include Porsche. There is no substitute. Find out more at Porsche.com. And Top Gun MG, helping financial advisors be the best of the best. Contact them today at TopGunMG.com. That's TopGunMG.com. So if we take a look at the points championship here, last round, but because we have wrapped up the top spot, nobody's fighting for the title. It is kind of going for best of the rest. This is just in the prototypes where we don't actually have a fight for second even, it looks like, because Jad Duncan is not here. That said, Michael Johnson and Dustin Heindel could find themselves swapping around places, but it'll take some extenuating circumstances to do so between them. Keep an eye on that pair. We also have a GT1 standings, which is a little bit closer here, Joey.
It is a little bit closer, although that top spot is still locked up. It is Matt Steele, your championship winner up there, but then it is a little bit tighter for that second place. Mark Rondeau, Doug Boccioni, still kind of in the thick of things there. We'll see how they race it out today. You see Federico Del Toro there, about 30 points behind third place there, just narrowly edging out Jeff Schulem. But as I say that, you see only 4 points between that 4th and 5th position. So basically, we'll be watching Rondeau, Boccione, Del Toro, Schulem, and then it's a much stronger field here today at Willow Springs in the GT1s. I also see Larry Haas out there, Hollander, quite a few names that you also see here on the standing sheet.
Yeah, should give us some fun to wrap it up for the season, which will end with a 30-minute race on this one. This is their standard sprint format. Open setups this time, which is a big difference from previous seasons where they've locked them down into fixed setups. And there's 2 different cars that you can race this season. The class of the prototypes has the 963 GTP, and then, of course, the GT1s is the 911 GT3R. The drivers will be competing in. And those are 2 cars that you can race as well if you want to get on iRacing. And now is the perfect time to do so because they've got their holiday sale going on now through January 5th. So there's not much time left on this one. Just, I suppose, about a week until this is now over. 50% off if you're a new member. So if you've been kind of on the fence, now is exactly the time that you need to take advantage of it, get a new membership, and get on iRacing and see how you fare against some of these club drivers who go from the real world to here on the sim and translating those skills and even using this to practice as well. It's a great tool for that, and many drivers will tell you so on that one. We're in the midst of qualifying, and it looks like Dylan Scott, our quickest right now in the prototypes, while Rondeau is our fastest in the GT1s. Biggest surprise really is that Matt Steele is only 3rd right now in those GT cars.
That is kind of the most shocking thing that's on the timing and scoring sheet right now as we watch Federico Del Toro here in this gray and red highlighted number 27. This is entering turn number 8, known as the sweeper, and you're flat out here, 155, 157, almost 160 miles an hour before these GT machines actually have to jump on the brakes just a touch. As you see, it tightens up there at turn number 9. Saw about 130 miles an hour minimum speed through there. As he crosses the line, looks like he's actually going to be starting a new flying lap. And Joe, you had mentioned the holiday sale. It is the end of 2024. When did you first get on iRacing?
It's starting to be an embarrassingly long time ago at this point. 2011, actually not long before this time. It was, I think, about October. So I started taking advantage of those sales pretty quickly once I got hooked. But yeah, it's been quite a few years at this stage, and honestly, if you're on the fence, I was too, and I can tell you that it took maybe a week of racing on it, and that was it. I haven't had my subscription lapse since 2011, even after I wondered about the costs and everything, and yeah, just it was racing nirvana. So definitely comes highly recommended from me as we see whether or not this is going to be nirvana for Del Toro, because he's coming around that last corner once again. Needs to make up about a 10th to take the pole, but it's not going to be this time as he slides off the corner.
It's a tricky final corner there. Turn number 9, you saw Federico just kind of clip that, call it apex curve, very, very late in the corner and just really upset the car. So we pick up Mark Rondeau here. This is the number 11 car, and he's actually currently our provisional pole sitter here in this GT class. It's set down a 112.412, and this is a little bit of this elevation right there. There's 5, and then you kind of crest the hill right here at turn number 6. Joe, this is a relatively flat racetrack. However, Willow Springs is set at the base of a mountain, so you do get some elevation change here.
Yeah, certainly. It's all concentrated on that one side of the track, and you're right, the rest of it does kind of flatten out a little bit, especially here through the sweeper coming up onto the main straight. Oh, just a bit off there from Mark Rondeau. He has enough time for one more lap, but that is going to be it, and it's got to be a clean one after that. Michael Johnson, 0.6 of a second off of Dylan Scott. I'm trying to figure out if he's on his last lap now. No, it looks like he'll have a chance for one more as well, because I think he's coming around to start a new one just now.
See him rocket down this front straightaway here. On my screen, I see 185 miles an hour before he jumped on the brakes there into turn number 1. And I'm curious here, does he actually lift through turn number 2? The GTP cars are so gosh dang fast. I saw maybe just a little bit of maintenance throttle as he comes up the hill, but 155 miles an hour before he stands on the brakes for turn number 3 here. And this is the top of the circuit. He's a little bit wide, but as long as you can get the nose tucked back in here, you can salvage the lap. A little bit off the line, but you can still make it work.
I'm not showing him up on his lap time right now, so that may have cost him, even if the lap does count from here. And honestly, it is kind of interesting to see these GTPs. This is not a track made for that size and speed of car. These GT3Rs are about the biggest you really want to be racing around here in real life. But this is the sim, so we don't have to be concerned with that, as it looks like Bacchigno is going to abandon his lap, but Johnson's going to finish his, and he did not go quicker.
No, and to kind of expand on your point about how fast these GTPs are, I saw Michael Johnson 166 miles an hour minimum speed through turn 9.
Whew. Yeah, that is scary fast through there. I mean, at that speed, you would reach the wall, I'm pretty sure, if you had an off at this track, because they have so much runoff around here. Usually you just kind of slide off into the dirt and the brush and have to kind of embarrassingly find your way back onto the circuit from there. But while the time is ticking down, everybody who can complete a lap from here has finished it up. So we won't see any change in our 12-car order for the start of this race. Everybody's managed to set a time, thankfully. So everybody is at least relatively in position. The question is, will Matt Steele be able to change that position, only starting from third in this race? Again, a bit unusual for him, as he's been so quick. Even on days where he isn't quickest, he usually is at least second place.
Good thing about Willow Springs, though, is that it can be a bit drafty. These cars aren't necessarily known for pack racing per se, but if you got somebody out there kind of towing along the line and people are very, very similar in terms of that overall pace, they should stay pretty close together.
Well, let's hope that that'll give us a good end to the season with some exciting battles, which will start with Dylan Scott on the top spot. Michael Johnson will begin next to him. Dustin Heindel starts in third today, and then Will Castillo rounds out only our 4 GTPs competing today.
Then into the other class, the GT1 class here. It is going to be your pole sitter of Mark Rondeau in that number 11. Federico Del Toro is going to be lined up next to him on that front row in the number 27. Then comes your championship winner, Matt Steele, in third place. Doug Bacchignon going to be starting fourth next to him there. Jeff Schulam starting fifth with Larry Haas back here in sixth. And then on the final row will be Matt Hollander and John Momeyer rounding out the 8-car GT field.
While the GT ones will have more to battle for. If you're wondering about that battle between Johnson and Heindel, essentially from our math, Michael Johnson will need to win this race and Heindel will need to finish last on the field in fourth. Otherwise, it will go to Dustin Heindel in the end, because they could only tie on points. And I believe Heindel has the better finishes to break that tie. Dylan Scott going to try and take that away from both of them, as he'll be starting from the pole spot. But the other thing I wonder about, we talked about how these cars are kind of fast for this place. What's traffic going to look like? This doesn't seem like a circuit that's well suited for multi-class.
No, it's definitely not suited for multi-class. And the GT cars, they're big, they're wide around here. And we were documenting how fast those prototypes are, 165 miles an hour minimum speed through turn number 9. And if you got a GT car parked smack on the racing line, yeah, you got to get around it somehow. Cross your fingers, maybe.
I guess so. Be very aware of your surroundings in the heat of the moment. That is the best advice I think I can give on this one. As Dylan leads them away, they don't do a full pace lap around here. It might be short, but they don't need to go for very far from where iRacing lines them up on the false grid. So as they head around the sweeper, that pace car going to release them. And already you can see Michael Johnson trying to maybe heat the tires and brakes up as he speeds up and slams on the binders to try and get all the stuff up to working temperature on that GTP car. Will that pay dividends when they get to the start-finish line and start to accelerate away? Looks like Porsche pace car is going to leave them be now. They're not allowed to go until they get the call from the flag stand, so this is not under Dylan Scott's control completely. He has to wait for the signal, and he's waiting patiently for Barney's call. as they approach the start-finish line. It's holding them for a long time, and finally it goes. Green flag is out. Scott gets a very good run. Johnson does not. Here comes Dustin Heindel to try and pull up on the inside, but he's not going to be fully there as Johnson will cut him off. Looks like we also got a good start for our GT1s.
Yeah, we were actually 3 wide going into turn number 1. And then check this out. That's Rondeau around the outside, but it's going to be Del Toro up the inside, the shorter distance through turn number 2 up towards the top of the hill here. And now that's actually Matt Steele running off of the racetrack. He's lost a spot. He's down into 4th and now down another spot into 5th.
Oh, and he gets very loose coming up through turn 4. I think Doug was able to take advantage. He gets a spot, and so does Larry Haas. Great start for Larry, honestly, on this race. Shulam tries to stick his nose in, but then has to back out of it. But how about Del Toro? Takes one position to lead this race before they've hit the end of lap 1.
And that pink Roxy car of Matt Steele is definitely squirming around on some cold tires. He's not comfortable on this opening lap, but you're right. Del Toro out front trying to run away from Rondeau. Let's see how they handle the final corner here. It's side by side almost between Hollander and Momeyer.
For the last spot on the field here, 7th and 8th in the GT1s, but Hollander will hold him off. Down to the inside, Larry Haas and Doug Baccignone fighting for a podium position. That will stay in the hands of Doug, at least for now. By the way, speaking of cold tires, Dustin Heindel had an off on that first lap. It looks like he slid off course at Monroe's Ridge, but he keeps going.
The battle really is Haas versus Baccignone. That's the 2 cars with the green highlights, and there was Dustin Heindel that you had just mentioned over Monroe Ridge there. Cold tires up over the crest. And looks like Larry Haas just had an issue up over the Budweiser balcony section.
Thankfully did not beach the car, because you can see how much the track drops away. Oh, I thought he was going to catch some air there getting back onto the circuit, but it's on for the lead. Here comes Rondeau up the inside. You mentioned the shorter distance. Well, this time it goes to the 11. He'll take the lead back away from Federico.
That was a nice pass, a little bit of a closing rate that I wasn't expecting, and now Del Toro actually has to lift off the gas coming out of that final corner. Was just too shallow on that racing line, so Mark Rondeau needs to focus forward. Your pole sitter back out front.
On board with Mark, looking at Del Toro now in that second position, a little wide coming off the corner there briefly, but thankfully doesn't spin it out. He's got the clear air. Can he utilize it while they don't have the traffic coming through? But lap times are in the realm of about 10 to 11 seconds between these two classes, so they're going to be caught very quick, considering it's just over a minute to circulate around here.
Rondeau is doing an excellent job on the first half of this lap. He was definitely maybe being held up by Del Toro there on lap number 1, maybe lap number 2 as well, and that gap is now extended almost 3/4 of a second here as they enter, kind of call it this back straightaway.
Now this is coming down into Wings Lake. Not really a corner, at least in these cars, but it definitely is a fast kink.
Is that like a chicken wing leg?
Yeah, it seems like it. Wish it was as tasty, but coming around as they enter the main straight, it is everybody trying to get on the gas as soon as they can, once again, including Matt Steele off of the podium. Considering the domination he had early in this season, he has definitely slipped downwards in these last few races. Everybody's been catching up to him.
I think it's just kind of the nature of competition, right? When you have the big fish out there in the pond, everybody else has got to start to swim just a little bit faster to keep up with them. And then that's the natural progression. By the end of the championship, you got everybody up here that's able to be competitive. And if anything, it's Baccignone that's really putting the pressure on the back of Federico Del Toro right now. Remember, he jumped out to that early lead, but then got passed by Mark Rondeau. Now he's got another car in his mirror.
I wonder if Federico just had a car kind of set up for the first lap or so to be really on top of things, and now it's starting to fade a little bit as Doug continues to apply the pressure in the mirrors of that 27. Not close enough to do anything, though, into the sweeper. He'll have to maybe try into turn 1, Castrol corner, as they look for that late apex, much shallower entry there for Doug Boccignone. And in fact, that didn't hurt him. I thought it would. He doesn't fall off like I thought that we would see. Still, Federico will hold on to second.
Oh, so close between the two cars there in the middle of the corner, and that allows kind of the accordion effect of Matt Steele to close it back up right underneath the rear wing of that 59 car. I think that if there's maybe an Achilles heel to Del Toro there, that gray car in second place, he's struggling a little bit with the exit of turn number 9. He's keeping it on the racetrack, but it's definitely kind of halting the momentum. Maybe just needs to open up that arc a little bit. You had mentioned that Doug was actually narrow into it. Maybe it just gave him a better sight line since that car was right in front of him.
That's a good point. And these GT3Rs do have a fair bit of aero on them, so maybe helped give him a little bit of downforce that he needed. In the meantime, they are catching the back of the field. Dylan Scott, the first one to come upon John Momeyer. He's already gone by Larry Haas as well. Next on his list going to be Matt Hollander. And they're going to start coming thick and fast. The good news for the GT1s is there's only 4 to deal with.
I don't know if you caught that, but I think it was Shulam that blinked out in front of our leader and reappeared directly next to him there. That was a little bit of a moment. There you see Michael Johnson also getting through that GT1 field through turn number 9. Our leader, Dylan Scott, runs up on this 3-pack here, but with all the extra downforce, just scoot around to the outside. That's what those prototypes are good at.
Whew. Closing rate certainly was something to behold. And, he goes completely off out of Rabbit's ear. Behind him, I know I saw that Michael Johnson was really pushing the limit on the entry to Rabbit's ear, at least I think the middle of it, trying to put 2 wheels in the dirt to sneak up the inside, and eventually he'll get around the outside of Federico Del Toro, and off he goes to try and chase down Dylan Scott. But both of them held up in their own little ways.
You're right. It has definitely closed up the battle again, and I believe this is going to be Will Castillo now getting by him. That shouldn't be an issue. Everybody's flat out on the entry there to turn number 8. Right about here is where those GT cars just kind of breathe off the throttle, maybe go down a gear, but 125 miles an hour at the apex, and then it's so crucial to carry that momentum and stand on the gas as soon as possible. And here comes that 4th and final prototype through. That's Dustin Heindel.
Rondo continuing to hold a gap of about 2 seconds over the battle for P2. Heindel manages to get by Boccignone. Now he'll be able to go around the outside. Ooh, got a little close to Federico for a moment there, but they'll manage it regardless. They stay in the order they were, but it definitely continues to bleed time from P1 to P2.
Doing a great job managing the race out front, right? Stay clean with the prototypes, leave plenty of room, which he's doing exactly that with Heindel, and then just jump right back on the racing line. And yeah, what it started out as maybe a little bit of a poor start for our leader has now grown to 2.5 seconds and comfortably out front.
Looking for maybe a 3rd win here to wrap it up. It'd be the 3rd win in 5 races at the end of the season, too. So Rondeau's having a good closer for this one if he can keep this up. But coming down once again, here we go, that battle for 2nd place. In fact, they've dropped Matt Steele for some reason. Not sure if that was the traffic that hurt him, but it's gone from 3 down to 2.
I was actually just going back to check on that as we see the cars enter turn number 1 here. Pretty cool shot. There you see a little bit of that elevation, a little wide there on the exit of turn number 1 from Del Toro, but you can get away with it because guess what? Turn number 2 is a right-hander, so just keep the car on the right side of the racetrack, kind of leads into that natural defense. Actually, a lot of these corners at this racetrack kind of lead into that natural defensive line if somebody's filling your mirrors.
It's going to have to work to really take this position, it looks like. But he's doing what he needs to do. He's just staying ever present there behind the rear bumper of the 27, making sure to capitalize if there's a mistake from that gray and red machine, which might be what he needs. Maybe when this traffic comes through, someone could put him offline, then Doug could pick up on that.
And Joe, I went back and found the mistake from Matt Steele. It was actually 2 mistakes. He kind of got loose in turn number 3 the previous lap, and then it carried over probably with some dirt on the tires up over the Budweiser balcony. So it wasn't just one mistake, but 2 little bobbles from that pink number 4 car, and that's what's grown that kind of gap to 1.5 seconds.
And he hasn't been able to make it back up yet. A little bit of a slow first corner from Doug Bacchignon as he falls off the back of Del Toro briefly. Looks like we found those incidents for Matt Steele. Yeah, there's that curb. Just slides a little bit. That could have been worse. I've seen a lot worse moments up through that uphill left-hander.
Yeah, and then it was difficult to see there, but really up at the top of the hill, he was just way off of the racing line. So it was 2 small moments, but it added up to, 1.5 seconds. He's starting to close it in, though. He kind of took a lap or 2 to kind of get everything back underneath him, and now he's starting to close that gap, as well as Dustin Heindel getting on the back of Will Castillo here.
Meanwhile, we do have a battle for position in the GTPs, but it's not Johnson and Heindel. Instead, it's Castillo and Heindel. After Dustin's mistake, he's been playing catch-up, and he's run down the number 12. Now the question is, can he get by? Because if you thought the aero wake was bad in the GT3 cars, now imagine it here in these GTPs.
That's exactly the point I was going to mention there is so much rolling speed. You got a lot of dirty air that's being kicked off of the back. So the last lap from Heindel, who's giving chase right now a 101.9, and Will Castillo must have made a mistake that previous lap because it's a 104. I think this lap time will be much more representative, but you see Heindel can't really close it in through turn number 9. It's just so fast.
Yeah, needs to get closer than this. And again, harkening back to what I mentioned earlier, traffic could give him the chance that he needs. If he could just catch Will Castillo being balked at some point, meeting with one of the GT cars at the wrong place, the wrong time. In the meantime, looks like they are a bit stuck. Let's head back over here to the battle for P2 in the GT1 class. Del Toro versus Bacchignon. It's been pretty much these two against each other almost since the first lap of the race, and we're almost already halfway through this thing.
I know that we just cut away from it, but there goes Heindel up through on that position to 3rd place. It was just another mistake. Remember how I was documenting Matt Steele making those mistakes in kind of turn 3, turn 4 area? Well, Will Castillo in this orange number 12 car had a very similar situation, and through went Heindel.
Great job on his part to really pick that up so quickly. Meanwhile, things got close down into rabbits here for Doug. Just couldn't quite get his nose underneath that 27. And you mentioned he was reeling them back in. There is that bright pink car behind them getting ever closer in the mirrors. And on top of things, now Dylan Scott's becoming visible too.
This is our overall leader that's going to be scooting his way through here. He's nice and patient. He's got about 3.5, 4 seconds to burn, so he's just going to go to the inside of both Bacchignon and Del Toro. I think more the question mark is going to be that purple prototype behind. Is he going to catch him on the front straightaway, or is it going to be an issue down into turn 1?
He's probably going to carry a lot more speed through this corner than they will. And, oh my goodness, way out into the dirt for Michael Johnson. Risky moves, but he puts his faith in the downforce, and it keeps him planted and facing the right way. Late down into the corner as well, getting by Del Toro. That slows him up. Bacchignon still can't find an opening.
That was kind of what I was mentioning pre-race when we were talking about the multi-class traffic. If you run up on them in turn number 9, really can't go anywhere. And thankfully, Joe, Michael decided to go off track rather than through Matt Steele.
Johnson, one of those drivers that has a lot of real-world experience racing in multi-class, and I feel like sometimes he does put that to use. He can be a bit more aggressive than other drivers when he wants to be, and today he certainly seems like he wants to be, as they now become equidistant apart between P2, P3, and P4 here, and they've got one more coming up, and that's Dustin Heindel. Now, where is he going to catch them?
In a bad spot, I tell you, and Castillo's right there. Heindel gets around Matt Steele. He's going to the outside. I like this move early around the outside of turn number 9, and now he couldn't figure out which way Del Toro was going to go, but thankfully it was just a little bit of a hiccup, and Castillo makes his way through as well.
Yeah, everybody's got to get from one side of the track to the other along there. The question is who's going to drift across when. That did cost him a little bit of time. You could see Will has caught back up to about half a second, but he's still not quite close enough. He needs another little moment for Heindel to really get close enough that he could maybe make an attack here. And unfortunately for them, they've passed all the GT cars, so there's nothing to do, at least for a little while. There's that first little mistake. Again, that inside curb coming through the left-hander. That slowed him up enough. Wow, that was brave there from Heindel.
And it carries on through the corner, and ultimately Heindel's got the better position down that back straightaway, out-accelerates Castillo, but if anything, Will has taken some notes because he is now on the gearbox, got a tremendous draft down the front straightaway, defensive from Dustin. Will looks to the inside. He showed the nose, but just didn't have the position in order to really force his way up the inside. But yeah, this is a good battle here for a podium position.
Thought that maybe we'd see a real attack up into the first corner, but maybe Will thinking twice about it, considering we still got plenty of race left. Oh, that time it's Dustin's turn to make a mistake. That opens the door. Will's going to try and push his way through. He gets side by side. This is almost exactly how Dustin did it before. And you said he was taking notes. Well, he passed the test. Look at that.
He evidently wrote it on the Post-it note, right? Plopped it right there on the dash, and then he said, hey, I've seen this one before. I know what to do.
Worked out beautifully. Excellent stuff from both of them. Great moves. I spoke too soon. Dustin Heindel off the course, way off the course. Car trying to desperately stay pointed the right way, and he goes into the pit lane, and he's got a black flag for speeding past the cones.
Sorry, I'm not laughing at Will Castillo out here, but it was just one thing led to another. It was almost like a domino incident that was kind of predicted as we jump back to Del Toro, Boccignone, and Steele now going down the front straightaway. And Joe, I think maybe this gap has actually shrunk down. What was over 2.5 seconds with Rondeau out front is now down to only 1.5 seconds.
All right, they're catching. So Rondeau's car was very strong, and after the first couple laps, he took back that lead. Middle phase seemed to be treating him well, and then now, for some reason, can't seem to keep up the pace. Will, finding an awkward spot to go around the other cars. He still hasn't served that penalty despite driving through pit lane, by the way, so he is going to have to come back in, unfortunately, and actually serve a stop and go, usually for that speeding penalty. Did something happen to Dylan Scott? He just disappeared. Oh, he's back.
I think he's got an internet connection issue going on right now. He is still out on the racetrack, but yeah, timing and scoring is a little glitching out right now. And if he doesn't kind of solidify this connection, there is the potential that he could drop out of the race.
Oh, man, that'd be an awful way to end it after it looked like he had full control of this one. And things getting interesting once again. That traffic really closed up things, not just to the leader, but these three to each other. I say that actually, they did lose that time right back to Marc Rondeau with Will Castillo coming through.
So now these front, call it 4, traveling through this very, very long uphill turn number 2 here. Come up into turn number 3. I'm actually a little surprised this area right here hasn't become more of a passing opportunity. Usually with these drafting type cars, you can kind of pull yourself up the hill and then make a late lunge into 3.
It seems like nobody's able to really get the run off of rabbits here like they like to up into that left-hander. But back down the hill they go, and they split apart at least for a brief while. Now up to 3 seconds to Marc Rondeau and continuing to drop. A bit of a yo-yo effect that we're seeing here for some reason.
I wonder if Rondeau maybe had a mistake. We've seen it out of nearly all of the competitors so far, so I'm not putting that one kind kind of off of the table yet. It could have just been a little bit of a bobble, and now that he's kind of back on things, he's starting to extend that gap. And I mean, he still holds the fastest lap of this GT class at a 1:13.1. The next fastest lap is a 1:13.4, so he's got a good quarter second of pace on everybody else.
And I have unfortunate news. Dylan Scott's connection did officially drop. He has been sent to last place. So Johnson now leads this race. Not unfortunate news for him. And he's got about 8 seconds over Dustin Heindel. But again, he won't catch him in the points if Dustin finishes P2 there.
Yeah, only a 5-point swing there. And correct me if I'm wrong, Joe. I think it's an 8-point swing between first and third.
Correct.
But Castillo is pretty far back after that pit lane incident.
Yeah, and looks like the officials have decided, since he was saving his car, they've cleared that black flag, so he won't have to serve that now. Dylan Scott looks like he has rejoined, so Will has to essentially have another major incident, because now Dylan is a whole lap behind him. A major incident needs to happen for Dustin Heindel, I should say. So Dustin Heindel, to finish last, would have to probably have his own accident out there for Michael Johnson to be able to overtake him in the points.
And Joe, he's risen from the dead. Dylan Scott is back out on track. So whatever he had going on with his internet connection issue, he dropped out of the race. And then he is reconnected back into the server, and he is out there on the racetrack. He does show 1 lap down on my timing and scoring screen.
Yeah, I'll have to check. I'm pretty sure he actually had a disconnect and had to reconnect and get back on. So that makes sense. I'm actually surprised that he only lost 1 lap, if I'm honest. Usually you do not reconnect that quickly and get back in the server. So he's very lucky that went as quickly as it did. Meanwhile, Dustin Heindel desperately trying to catch up to Michael Johnson, knowing he could maybe take a win. All 3 of our battle for second go off course, but Del Toro had the worst of it. He's the slowest of the 3. We'll look at them all going 3 abreast into the corner, full contact there, and that's going to send Baccignone off into the outside of turn 1 as Steele goes by into P3.
It was 3 wide going into the break zone, and Del Toro comes out the victor, and I actually think he might have had an issue there in turn number 2 by himself. Now Matt Steele promotes himself into second place. Oh my goodness, Domino's, what is happening to Del Toro right now still?
Someone must have spilled something on the track or something. This is kind of crazy that they all are struggling. I suppose maybe you could blame a little bit of it on the dirt that they got on their tires out there exiting the final corner. But for Matt Steele, it looked like he was going to be stuck outside the podium for this whole race, and then suddenly he's gifted 2 spots with ease.
Yeah, it worked out, and I'm going to love to see the replay out of this one once we get it all spooled up and whatnot, because it started between Steele and Baccignone all the way down on the inside of the racetrack, and I definitely think that Doug was crowding Matt Steele down there. I'm just curious if there was actually a little bit of room, or if Matt Steele should have been given a little bit more room.
Yeah, that's going to be a hard call for sure. And unfortunately, it didn't help Matt Steele in terms of the battle for the win. Mark Rondeau's now 6 seconds ahead because of that holdup that he had. Rondeau currently coming up through turn 3 right now as we watch Del Toro up and around Rabbits here. Big climb up this part of the track, actually. This is where it really starts to rise up.
All about keeping it mistake-free from here on out. Got about 5.5 minutes left. You see these prototypes still coming up through, and with the closing rates that they have, I think anything can definitely still be left on the table. Nice job being patient right there, though, from Dylan Scott. He realizes that there's nothing to be gained. Don't kind of interfere in the other people's races at this point.
Yeah, exactly. With him being a lap behind, nothing really can happen. From that angle, it didn't look like he crowded him.
I agree.
But you know, sometimes that can be deceiving. So I if I had to make a call just from that view, then yeah, I would say that that was more on Steele making the contact himself instead of Doug running him off the road or anything.
100% agree. And this was the mistake down in turn number 2. I'm still trying to figure it out. It just got really loose on Del Toro there. Maybe he just had some liftoff oversteer. And the same thing happened to him right there again. Stood on the gas, maybe a bunch of dirt on the tires still, and it just kind of came around on him. 2 odd moments, though.
It's very lucky. Oh, and...
Oh, my goodness.
Baccignota going by Steele. Now, did Steele have his own problem there? Doug's back up into P2, or was... you know what? I wonder if Matt was redressing the position.
I think that's exactly what he was doing. He put his hand up and said, you know what, that incident in turn number 1 was my mistake, my fault. Here's the position back to you. So now it is second and third, and only a half a second separating the two.
Meanwhile, Rondeau is laughing his way to the bank. It's up to 11 seconds because of Matt lifting and letting him by. There he is now on your screen with 4 minutes left to go. So maybe about 4 more laps for these drivers to wrap this one up for the 2024 season. 2 seasons in 2024 that they ran. And then, of course, in this second one, they come back to multi-class racing, something they haven't done or hadn't done here in POC for quite some time on the sim side. But for Rondeau, it looks like he's going to be smiling big here for the end of the season as we come back to Michael Johnson now.
This is your prototype leader running up on the back of the number 27. That's Del Toro coming up through turn 3 and 4. Use the outside of the racetrack and all that extra grip that prototype makes. And there you see the battle between Steele and Baccignone directly in front of him. Michael's done a nice job. Now, he was kind of gifted the lead with Dylan Scott dropping out because of the internet issue, but he's kept it consistent, right? He hasn't made any huge mistakes out there. He's avoided the contact with the GT cars when he's run up on them, so he's out front and in control.
He hasn't won since round 4 at the Nürburgring this season. It's been a while since we've seen him on the top step. He's still got to bring it home from here. It's not over, but it's looking very solidly in his hands at this stage, with more than a 10-second gap over Dustin Heindel. So even if he can't take another position in the championship, I'm sure he'll be glad to be able to finish it up on a win. There is Dustin now, going by Jeff Schulam, who's been having a very quiet race. Jeff's still within the top 5, but he hasn't been able to keep pace with that battle for second, despite all the issues they've had.
No, it's been a little bit of a lonely race for him, hasn't it been? He's actually kind of closing it in on Del Toro. But yeah, he's got about 18 seconds of a lead between himself and John Momeyer, who's behind him right now. Doing a good job, right where he qualified, hanging out inside the top 5. And on my screen, I actually just saw Matt Steele driving off the racetrack again.
Uh-oh. Been an unusual day for Matt Steele to see him make this many mistakes.
The setup looks loose. There's been a lot of incidents that are loose with these GT cars so far, but you can always dial it back in terms of your driving style, too.
And Porsches are kind of known for that, with so much weight being towards the back of the car that once they start to go, it can be difficult to save them. So, yeah, it shouldn't be too greatly surprising. See what Matt thinks about it. If he comes in to chat with us post-race, definitely want to pick his brain on this one and see why this track just didn't seem to click with him like so many of the others have this season. Rondeau back down the hill. And let's see, what are we at? A minute left to go. Where is Johnson right now?
It's coming through turn 8 right now on my screen. So he'll be taking the white flag. I think we should get each of our leaders a nice white flag.
You're right, yeah. This should be the last one as well for the 11 car. And indeed, there's Johnson taking that white flag as he crosses the line. 1 lap left in the season.
Only got 9 turns, now 8 turns as he drops 2 wheels into the dirt there in turn number 1. Make it all the way up the hill here. just another, call it, mile and a half left around this place. It goes by pretty quick. He's going to have to deal with a little bit of traffic, but with a 10.5-second buffer back to Dustin Heindel in second, he can take his time.
Yep, he can make the safe moves here at the end. He's built the gap that he needs, and it's working out beautifully. Up and over Monroe's Ridge, tires up to temperature, no problems up through there, already flashing the lights in celebration. That's not at Momeyer. He's a ways up the road, so I don't think he's going to catch him. Like I said, it's been a long time since we've seen Michael Johnson up at the top, and for this bright purple car, the fix is in. He is going to win the last round of 2024.
Nicely done from that purple number 9. Go celebrate the victory, as looks like Mark Rondeau is going to be coming through turn 8 and 9 as Dustin Heindel finishes second there in the prototype class. This is that gray number 11, started from pole position, lost the lead there for the first lap and a half, and then regained it with a nice move. Comes out with a victory as Mark Rondeau.
To say a great job to Doug Boccignone as well, finishing second today. Yes, he was a ways behind Rondeau, but a gain of 2 positions from the start. Good way to wrap up the season. Won't bookend it with wins, but came pretty darn close. Castillo will get himself a podium. He seems pretty happy about that as he weaves in celebration. Poor Dylan Scott. Definitely wasn't his fault that he lost this one. That was down to the internet gods, unfortunately, not smiling upon him. Looks like that's pretty much everybody done with this one. Momeyer, I think, going to be our last one to cross the line. They're finishing 6th today in the GT1s. So with that, we can call 2024 done for racing for the POC, and that puts Michael Johnson with a win to wrap it up in the prototype class. He is, of course, followed by Dustin Heindel, so Dustin will hold on to his position in the championship over him, with Will Castillo finishing in 3rd and Dylan Scott, unfortunately, not even getting to be on the podium in the last race, Joey.
Then over to those GT cars, it is Mark Rondeau that stands victorious today in his number 11. Doug Boccignone with a great drive, up 2 positions to finish in second spot there in that number 59. Matt Steele, kind of a mistake-filled race. He still finds the podium there in 3rd, with Federico Del Toro slipping down till 4th. Jeff Schutlem finishing with a nice top 5. Momeyer back here with 6. Larry Haas in 7th, and Matt Hollander rounds out the 8 cars that took place in today's race.
So not a whole lot of cars that came out for the finale, but enough to give us quite a bit of fun out there. That was a pretty decent race, and glad to wrap it up on a good one, because not only is it the last one of 2024 for the POC, but this is our last broadcast on GSRC for 2024, and then it's off to the new year. So we get to close it out with a nice little bang ourselves.
It's been a fun year, definitely. Covered a lot of different series here on GSRC. I think one of the really cool highlights, at least for me, Joe, was definitely that Skip Barber Racing School that got the opportunity there with iRacing. That was a pretty cool one.
Yeah, it was really awesome to see that come onto the channel, with a huge thanks to iRacing for bringing that to us with the opportunity and letting us kind of show off what we can do. One driver that got to show off what he could do is Doug Boccignone. Let's see if we can talk to him about his second place today. Doug, congratulations on a podium. You wound up P2. I don't know if you had a chance to go back and look at the incident that you had with Matt Steele. Joey and I kind of were on your side from the angles that we were able to see. What was your take on it? We might not have Doug hooked up here. Doug, this is Joe up with GSRC. Do you have a copy?
Yeah, sorry, Joe.
There we go.
Thanks a lot. I'm pressing the wrong button. Hey, I had a lot of fun racing with Federico and Matt, and watching Mark Rondeau walk off into the distance. But I was a little compromised on the exit of the final turn, and I saw Matt had a run. I went really defensive, but I left about 3/4 of a car width, and he took it. So we just had a little bit of contact, but he gave the position back. which was kind.
We noticed that and thought that was the situation. It looked like he kind of redressed the position. That doesn't surprise me, but did it surprise you? Because it seems like fair play is kind of a big value of this community.
Yeah, no, it didn't surprise me at all. I figured he'd do it. I would have no problem if he didn't, but I was glad he did.
It was definitely a very nice gesture at the end. Well, we've been talking a lot here in the post race about this is the end of the 2024 season. We haven't seen much about what's happening in 25. You excited for what the POC has in store?
Yeah, I think we're gonna change it up a little and have a lot of fun. Might all be in a single class, all driving the same car. Still to be decided, but it should be fun. We might have a little bit bigger fields competing every race.
Oh, I love that, honestly. The multi-class gave us excitement, but it'll be good to have everybody all on the same page. Again, congratulations on a second today.
Thanks a lot, Joe. Appreciate it.
No problem. That was Doug Baccignot, our second place finisher in GT1. And up next, I believe Joey's caught up with the man who tangled with him, Matt Steele.
Yeah.
Hello.
Matt finishing here in third place today at Willow Springs. Had a few bobbles today on your side of things, it seemed.
Yeah, especially near the end when the tires started getting cooked. Front left was just getting really cooked, and everything was. I was pushing really hard to try and get back by Doug. So yeah, everybody was pretty quick this weekend.
Give us your take on that turn one incident.
Honestly, we all got scrambled up a little bit with the lap traffic coming through, and so I saw an opportunity. I had a good run on the guys, and so I came down onto the left side on the inside, approaching turn one, and Doug went defensive, and I stayed there because I had my nose in, and I was just as far left as I could go, and when it was time to turn in, I think Doug thought he had a little more space than he did, and he just kind of we touched, and he kind of got a little pit maneuver on himself, and so I was able to kind of collect things and get back up into second. But there was some chatter on the radio, and we talked it out a little bit, and thought it might be a good idea to go ahead and just give it back just in case. Championship for me is already done, so I went ahead and let him by, and we raced the last couple of laps. So by then everything was getting so hot it was tough to keep it on the track and keep a good time going.
Looking back on the championship, because you are the champion there in that GT1 class, what do you think, or what do you pick out as a couple high points?
Oh, definitely, jumping in and just kind of having pace right away was pretty exciting to jump in and just be able to build up that gap early on. And it was also fun watching, everybody sort of kind of watching that pack squeeze back up again to where by the end of the season we were all just tangling, right on a level playing field for the podium. So it was a lot of fun. It was a good year.
Well, congrats on the year. Happy New Year's over to you. Is there anybody you want to give a shout out to?
Yeah, just any family or friends who are watching. I think my son's watching and some of his friends. So hey to everybody. And again, thanks to you guys doing an amazing job.
That was Matt Steele driving that pink number 4 car, Joe.
And that will take us to the winner of the GT1 race today, Mark Rondeau. Mark, what an end of the season. 3 wins in 5 races, and you haven't been off the podium since round 5. This has got to feel like a real momentum swing for you.
Woohoo! What a race. That was fun. I'm pretty happy.
I can imagine. It looked like for at least the first few laps, you were starting to pull away. Once you got that lead back, you got up to about 2.5 seconds, and then suddenly it went down to a second and a half. Was there a mistake that we missed in there that cost you some time?
No, Willow's really hard on tires, especially the left front, and I wanted to make sure I had tires at the end. Once I got in front, I knew if I didn't make any mistakes, I could run my pace. And that's what I did. A lot of the guys were complaining about their tires going away by the end of the race, and watching them battle behind me made me happy.
I can only imagine the sigh of relief as that gap started to get bigger. But Willow Springs treated you well. Obviously, we had Sonoma to start things off as well. Are there any other California tracks you want to see on the schedule in 2025?
Just whatever we end up with. These are just such a fun group of guys to race with. Really looking forward to being in the RSR with everyone. We have our practices during the week in between, and it's always fun. Everyone's pretty respectful. We race hard, but we have a lot of fun, and it's just a great group of guys. POC's a great club.
It is. It's a lot of fun for us to watch. We love getting to call you guys races. And again, congratulations on the win today.
Thanks. And thanks to you guys for putting on a great broadcast. Thanks to POC. Thanks to my friends and family and my son, Leiden.
That was Mark Rondeau, winner in the GT3 cars for this evening. Lastly, I believe Joey's caught up with our winner in the prototypes, Michael Johnson.
Well, I think we got Dylan Scott in here first. I think Krampus was playing with your internet. What happened?
I know, right? I think Michael sent someone over to cut my internet line off. What the heck? I want to make sure I leave enough time for Michael. I figured I'd come.
Oh,
and
plenty
join
of
you
time.
guys.
No worries.
Plenty of
You're all
time.
good.
All right, good,
Yeah.
good. Yeah, the one that got away. I mean, this is my 2024. So I figured, what a way to end it, to lose the race while winning it, right? Give it away like that. Damn internet. I don't know. The gremlins are in there. They decided this wasn't the year for me, so maybe I'll come back stronger next year. What do you think? Give it a go?
I think that's a good plan. And I mean, you can't complain about being second in the championship either. So I think there's still a lot of high points to look back on, for sure.
Yeah, in fact, exactly. I wanted to get back on track, figure, fourth place, third place. I don't actually even know where I ended up, to be honest. I did pass Will, but I don't know if that was for third, if I was still a lap down or what. But I mean, it's a good learning experience. Been a good couple of years of learning, and now it's time to go run with the big guys like Michael. I do want to give one quick shout out to Mr. Rondeau, Mark Rondeau. You had him on the interview because he's a fast guy at Willow Springs. He shared the setup with me, so thank you, Mark, for that setup. It was a banger. It was super fast.
Well, Dylan, thank you so much for coming out and racing with us here in 2024. We hope to see you next year in 25 as well. Is there anybody you want to give a shout out to while we still got you here?
Yeah, quick shout out to my family, Nico, Luca, Aurora, love you guys. And then you guys, GSRC, you make us look good. That's why I wanted to jump on and say hi and happy 2024 and good luck for a good 2025 for you guys. And of course the POC, great group of guys. Thank you to everyone.
Well, that was Dylan Scott. He was your pole sitter, was leading the race, but the internet had other plans for him tonight.
And those plans meant that Michael Johnson was our winner. Michael, congratulations on the victory. Again, one of those sort of unexpected ones, but you put yourself in the right place.
I was right place, right time, and I guess this is our version of a mechanical failure. When you have a transmission go or a 5-cent washer destroys your whole race. I feel bad for Dylan because he absolutely had it hands down, but I could hold on to him on cold tires, but man, once he got heat, I was done.
I mean, talk about that heat, because the GT drivers were complaining a lot about the left front. This is a track that has a lot of those long, fast right-handers. Were the GTPs experiencing some of that?
Not as much. The platform is a little better balanced. I was noticing because I did some coaching for some of the guys on the GT3, and some of the setups that we were working on had up to 240 Fahrenheit on that left front, and you just couldn't do anything with it. So we balanced the car out a little bit for the GT3s, made it a tiny bit slower, but over the long run it was going to be faster, and that really helped with those cars. But the GTPs, absolutely no issue. They are just so beautifully balanced that I think I was running at the end of the race, I looked about 155 Fahrenheit. So yeah, they were almost cold.
You end the season on 2 wins, but they were saying that there's a possibility it might be a single class next time. More people involved. Sometimes that can mean it's harder to come by those wins. What are you thinking about the start of 2025? Can you take the RSR to the top spot?
Well, I have a lot of experience with the RSR. It was one of the first cars I raced with this group. I'm very comfortable in it, and I've got a nice library of setups. And playing with it over the past week or so, I've kind of learned that it hasn't really changed. So I go out and I'm looking at my lap times, and it's exactly what I was running before, even a little bit faster, with a couple of little minor tweaks here and there. So I'm ready for the RSR. I think it's going to be really good, and I think I will be the pointy end of the field on that one.
All right, we'll look out for you. Congratulations ending things on a win, and we can't wait to see you in 2025.
Thank you much. Appreciate Truffle Shuffle, you guys, T-Mobile for Business, Sugar Studios LA, Fixed Vodka, and Freedom Autosport, as well as the POC. And you guys, everybody's awesome. Thanks.
Michael Johnson, your winner today here in the Prototype Switch, is going to wrap us up for the year. A huge thank you to our sponsors, Porsche. There is no substitute. Find out more at Porsche.com. And Top Gun MG. Contact them today at topgunmg.com. Also, thanks to the team today, Joey, Christian, and Dougie. Make sure to check out our social media, our website, and our merchandise store. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't miss a moment here on GSRC. Be sure to check out our broadcasts that we have on this channel in the meantime. And again, thank you to everybody involved here at GSRC for a wonderful 2024. Have a happy new year. And until next time, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.